Hello, my name is Dr. Alexandra Koval. I am glad to introduce you our module on Russian business culture. This module is a product of joint work of professors from the World Economy Department, St. Petersburg State University. Dr. Irina Vorobyova, Dr. Olga Trofimenko and I have prepared this module for your better understanding of how to negotiate deals and work with Russians. This module is essential for those who are planning to do business in Russia, as still there are a lot of delusions about our country and business culture. The Russian Federation is often seen as a bear, big, brutal, clumsy, for somebody even lazy and making fun with an accordion, and for others, aggressive and dangerous. How to understand a mysterious Russian soul, as was written by Fyodor Dostoevsky, in order to achieve a success on the emerging market of Russia. If you misunderstand it, then whatever strategy and plans you have, you will not reach your goals. The famous management consultant Peter Drucker has said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." Our module will be divided into 4 parts. The first part presents you with the Russian culture in comparison with others. The next will focus on key instruments of negotiations with Russians. The third part will discuss business protocol and etiquette in Russia. And finally, we will explain you how to work with Russian colleagues and employees together in developing international projects. Why it is essential to understand the business culture of another country. There are 2 iron rules of international business that explain the reasons for that. First, the seller adapts to the buyer. Second, the visitors is expected to observe local customs. Observing and adapting are first steps to connect to different business cultures. If you know specifics in culture of your client or your partner and try to follow the local etiquette, there is a much less risk to show disrespect to the customer on the one hand, and on the other hand, you will be ready to some unusual and unexpected behavior from the point of your culture. Even take into account that in general, the attitude for foreigners in Russia is very positive, and more visitors coming to big cities of Russia say that people are very close to Europe. Still, Russia has its own peculiarities. As a Russian poet, Fyodor Tyutchev, wrote, "Don't cover Russia with your mind, don't use your norms of understanding. It has its outstanding kind, you must believe without fading." For instance, if you do not attend informal meetings in Russia, you will not be taken serious, as informal negotiations are an important part of the whole deal. Or, if you expect the same way of working disciplines or relationship with the boss as in many Western cultures, you will also be surprised, as hierarchy on the one hand and flexibility on the other hand could get along together. You should remember a very wise proverb: do not enter another monastery with your own statute. In order to compare business cultures, we could use the matrix of cultural dimensions by Gerhard Hofstede. He presents 6 main dimensions. First, power distance. Power distance represents if the power is distributed equally in the society, what kind of relationship is between people of different power, or in other words, what is the level of hierarchy? What is the distance between employees and a director? Second, individualism is the extent to which people feel independent. They are free to make their own decisions, or they prefer to solve tasks collectively. Third, uncertainty avoidance deals with the society's tolerance for uncertainty. To what extent people wish to have fixed habits and rituals. In uncertainty-avoiding society, uncertainty means a threat. What is different is dangerous. Fourth, masculinity is the next dimension. In a masculine society, men are supposed to be tough. Competition is a much more important driver for business than in a feminine society. Fifth, long-term orientation, which deals with change. In a long-term oriented cultures, people are focused on the future. In the short term, they are more oriented on what is happening right now or was in the past. And finally, sixth, indulgence is about the good things in life. In indulgent culture, doing what your impulses want you to do is good. In an opposite restrained culture, the feeling is that life is hard and duty and not freedom is the normal state of the being. Let's look on dimensions of Russian business culture in comparison with cultural dimensions in other states, both developing and developed. Russia is one of the cultures with highest dimensions in the world in power distance and uncertainty avoidance. Large power distance means that for Russians, respect is one of the most important things in the relationship, and inequality is perceived normal for the society. Most of the Russian companies are very centralized, and employees assume that they will be told what they need to do. The general director of Hyundai Motors manufacturing in Russia, Lee Tak, from South Korea, pointed out in his interview that Russians assumed all his ideas as orders or instructions and were not ready to discuss them. That confirmed that the level of hierarchy in Russia is high, and in negotiations with representatives from Russian company, it's very important to know their level of power, whether they could take decisions. In addition, Russia has an uncertainty-avoidant society. That explains why Russians like to formalize everything. There is a need of rules, even if they are not practical. There is a need of trust between business partners, and everything should be fixed on papers. Russia has also a high long-term orientation index. By Gerd Hofstede, long-term oriented society is flexible in adapting changes. Traditions could be changed, and which norms to apply depends on situations. Flexibility in making business and ability to accept changes in negotiations are one of characteristics of Russian business. On other dimensions, such as individualism, masculinity, and indulgence, Russia has relatively low indexes. Russian culture is a collective one. That means that relationship and business come first and task comes second. In corporation, competition takes place between groups rather than individuals. Russia tends to be a more feminine society. It explains why the negotiation style is not so much aggressive. It also means that Russian employees will search to find a balance between work and life, family. Finally, Russia has a restrained culture. That means, from the business point of view, that Russians have less freedom or criticize the boss and to present freely their own opinion in the negotiations. And usually they follow their bosses. Moreover, it also explains that Russians do not usually provide their emotions to the public. As you could see on the graph, Russian culture has many similarities with Brazilian one, except long-term orientation and indulgence indexes. Russia is also very close to China in many dimensions, but still there is a significant difference in such parameters as individualism, masculinity, and uncertainty avoidance. With Germany, Russia is similar on uncertainty avoidance and long-term orientation. Russian and US cultures seem very different. In negotiations, we should understand these differences and similarities in order to achieve greater success.